Hey, we are live. I am Justin, also known as the DIY audio guy. And as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime. What is going on over at Toys DIY Audio, my friend?
Oh, not much. I just realized, though, you are trying to outdo me in the background category, aren't you?
This was two cheap curtains from Walmart. So my background was just not good at all, and so I decided I needed to hang something behind me so it wasn't hideous. So we've gone
I
from
like
hideous
it.
to not hideous. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm
I do.
I'm I'm not unhappy with it.
I like the contrast between the different colors. You got the blue and the black, and it's nice.
It is. It is. What's
Can I
new and
just
exciting on the? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
can I just mention David Tucker's comment, because I think this is so true, because we're talking about specs tonight, and you'll tell all that, but he said, "Does it bump though? Is all I need to know." And then he said, "Just playing." But you know what? There is some truth to that, right? Like sometimes we just want to know, is it good? Should I buy it? The end of the story. And I try to answer that when I do reviews, because I know that there's a certain population that's all they care about.
You know, it's been a while. I forget how long ago this was. I was testing something out, and I reached out to Derek, to Big D Wiz, and asked him if I could get just a clip of him saying, "Hey Justin, we want to know, do it bump though?" And I used it in one video because I didn't want to just throw it up a lot, because it was a huge favor he did for me. He's a nice guy. And so there's, the video did very well. I don't know if it's because he was in it, and Nick is about to cough up a lung here. So
Swallowed some water.
worse things have happened. But that was a fun video, and really that is kind of the question. I mean, do it bumpto. That's what it's usually all about, because the bass is part of what makes the music interesting. And how important are the specifications? Well, they're really important. We just got to hope that the speaker sounds good, because does the speaker sound good, and do you enjoy the speaker, is the thing that matters most. We got some other YouTubers hanging out here. We got Living Loud with Andy. Got a sick family. Yeah, we've had sick people in my household. We got the notorious RVH. He's been cranking some videos out lately.
Mm-hmm. So is Mullen
Mullen is here. Yeah, Mullen's putting together. He's calling it from dirt to demos. Is that right? And he's got this old beater car. I'm sure most of y'all have seen it, that he is resurrecting. And I see people like that would have a lot of talent. They know how to fix cars. And I think to myself, wow, I wish I had the ability to do some of that stuff. But dirt to demos, that's it. But you get
he commented on one of my videos the other. So I did the whole review on this DAC, right? And he's like, "Oh, here's Nick sitting at his kitchen counter doing reviews, and here I am trying to put together a triple baffle." I'm like, you don't know how hard it was to get the house quiet.
The thing I noticed was how clean your house was, because
it's a facade. It's all off camera. I pushed it all aside.
And it's not that my house is dirty. It's just there's three other people who live here and two pets, and there's always something going on. And so this is like the only spot inside where I can just block it all out.
It's lived in. I mean, that's what people like to say. It's lived in. Like, we live in our house. So yeah.
We do live in our house. I mean, it's what it's for. It's for living in. It's not a museum.
Right.
And so, hi, Darius Fife. I don't recognize that name. I don't know if you've been a viewer or not for a while, but it's cool to have people whose name I don't recognize hanging out in the chat. Good to have everybody here. Of course, as always, super chats should be on. I don't know if they are or not. It seems like they work sometimes, they don't others. And so, Nick, I want to talk about something that to me is very serious. And
Sure.
Last weekend, not the weekend that just happened, the weekend before that, I dropped a video of a subwoofer. And let me see if I can do a screen share and talk about it a little bit. And
yes.
I don't know if you saw the video or not, but the subwoofer was the light harmonic subwoofer. All right. They've changed the interface for screen sharing.
It looks really, really nice. It really does. It has a really nice look to it.
I think it's really hard to do with the carbon fiber look and do it right.
Mm.
And so I think it would look better if it didn't have the carbon fiber dust cap. I don't actually think it looks that good.
Really? So you don't
Now,
like the carbon fiber dust? You don't like how glossy it is? Is that what you don't like?
well, that's part of it. And if you look at most of the pictures I put in the video and pictures I posted online, they were almost all pictures of the backside because this one looks better from the back. I think that this is the kind of subwoofer that you would want to mount inverted. This subwoofer would work better with its face down and its rear end up.
Yeah, because it does have that Ultimax vibe, which we talked about, and I think someone mentioned actually on your channel that a lot of people buy those same baskets. There's a lot of companies that use that basket, and it is a good basket. It's not stamped steel. It is aluminum cast, right? I mean, it looked like aluminum cast. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's a nice basket.
And I'm pretty certain that the video that True Voice of Reason caught my joke and no one else did.
I know. Oh, I caught it. I just decided not to say anything about it.
I feel like there was a song by Two Live Crew that said something like that. I don't know. This is a family show. Time to dial it back, even though it's my fault. But High Five Vega posted a video today of another subwoofer. That same company reached out to me and they wanted to send me a 15. I'm all like, well, I got to build a box for a 15, so you got to pay me to build the box. And they were like, no, but our 12s are out, so I didn't get to review the subwoofer. But the back of the basket looked exactly the same. It looked like the same basket. And I didn't pay that close attention to Rob's video I had on the background while I was working.
So the subwoofer is a butterface.
Yes, it is a butterface.
Yeah. And anyone that doesn't know what that means, sorry.
Another. Okay, it's also I would say it's a 10-footer, right? So like my pickup truck's a 10-footer. From 10 feet away, you can't see all the scratches and dings. And
it's like every car you look at online, it looks great from the pictures. And you get in person, you're like, is this the same car? Like, what?
I'm not sure if it is. So this company, Light Harmonic, several viewers commented. I didn't have time to go through and pull all the comments up and mention who all it was, but several of my longtime viewers, people who comment a lot, had some backstory behind the company. Apparently, the company Light Harmonic did some crowdfunding to make some audio equipment that I don't know what it was, some kind of audio equipment. And after they raised millions in crowdfunding, never delivered a product. Oh,
that's awful.
You can dig around a little bit and you can find some audio forums, kind of more home audio, high-end audio forums where people are complaining about it. And it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then one person, I forget who it was, it's someone who comments a lot on my videos, a nice community member who's usually given some good information, said that apparently after all that went down, the guy who owned the company, originally he was from China, and he was like, yeah, I'm out, and he disappeared. And someone else apparently bought the company. And the new version of it is basically selling speakers with carbon fiber cones. And in the image you can see here, they're targeting factory drop-in replacements for Teslas. And all their stuff has carbon fiber cones.
So I guess before we go too far, I used to love Kickstarter back in the day when it first came out. I was like, oh, Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding, and I still like Kickstarter. I'm not against it. I might eventually do something on Kickstarter someday. Who knows? But this product right here, you're not going to be able to see because it's caught up in something. This right here is what we call a sonic pad. Hooks up to my 3D printer. Anyway, it makes it print faster. It doesn't really matter. It's also was eventually, I think originally a crowdsourced thing. And I get scared of crowdsourced now because I feel like when you get a crowdsourced, one, you may not ever get the product. And then two, if you do get the product, it may not be a completed product. I feel like that happens a lot more often nowadays than it happened. Like this particular product works great. It's a good product, but it's not everything they promised. So I don't know. It just feels like more and more that's happening. I hate that. Right. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. And that's, I tend to believe that companies don't start that kind of thing with the intention of defrauding their supporters. I have to imagine that sometimes things just go wrong, which is how the world
Yeah.
works, right? Things just go wrong sometimes. The other day I was looking at this, one left in stock, right? And so I've about decided I might have the only one in existence because it was out of stock before I even showed up on my doorstep. And kind of the backstory behind it, because I flipped through the old emails today, they reached out to me in September, and
This year.
this year, right? And I said, sure, I'll do one of your 12s. I'll drop it into an existing box. I'll get my DATs and I'll read the TS parameters. That's what I'm going to do in the video and send it my way. And so they made a shipping label instantly, and it popped up on the post office website where I could track it, have a tracking number. And then it stayed in Light Harmonic is the name of the company. Light Harmonic, right here on the screen, Light Harmonic. And then it stayed in shipping, like at their office, for a couple of weeks. And it wasn't until late October before I got it.
That's weird.
I want to say 22nd, 21st, 20, something like that. And I half think they didn't have any in stock locally, because I Googled them and it's just like an office park. It's not like they're working out of a warehouse or something. I think they didn't have any in stock at all. And when they had to send one out, they ordered one from China and had it sent over and then sent it on over to me, because it did take them 3 weeks before they slapped the label on the vehicle and sent it out. And I asked some questions. Hey, I see it's there, but it's not showing up. And, according to the tracking, it should be here. But it says it's still sitting in your back office there. And they had, oh yeah, we're having staffing problems, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, why did you honestly harass me about reviewing your stupid subwoofer when you didn't have it ready to fire off and send it out to me?
Yeah. That's a good question.
So I had a bad taste in my mouth from the start. And then when I cracked this thing open, my first impression was, I'm not too keen on the carbon fiber cone, but from the backside, this thing looks amazing. And I would have expected a bigger surround, more of a high roll surround and maybe some good X-Max. And then I started, if y'all saw the video, I started testing it, and like, I couldn't get the DATs to read it properly. Now that carbon fiber is solid. I mean, I put 20 pounds on that dust cap and it didn't deflect. So no doubt it's strong material.
Or a strong motor.
Well, I mean, it sagged a little bit, but still the dust cap didn't deform.
I mean, and this is the issue, right? I feel like I feel like this happens a lot more in car audio than home audio. Because typically home audio, they know that you need the specs to design it, but there are seemingly more. I guess I could say this. When I come across companies I've never heard of, it's not unusual for me to find no specs on the website at all. And not even that, oftentimes, and I don't think Light Harmonics did it either. They don't even have, well, I know they didn't, because you said it in the video. They don't have recommended box size either, recommended port size, nothing. So you're left guessing, and that can be pretty scary especially depending on the price of these products.
And I don't think it's overly priced. This was like $160 for what is a rather beefy subwoofer, right? It's pretty light for its size, because it's got that lightweight cone and that lightweight cast basket. But right in front of you on the screen right now is 100% of the specifications available for this subwoofer, other than the RMS power. Don't even use the phrase RMS, is 1,000 watts. And so this is all we know from a technical specification standpoint. They even got the voice coil impedance wrong. It's not a 2 ohm voice coil. It's a pair of 4 ohm voice coils, which you would assume would be wired to 2 ohms. And I'm looking at it going, oh, hey, it must mean dual 2 ohm, and it's not. And so I could have probably gotten more power out of it, gotten more dB out of it on the meter, but I just didn't see the point. When I was making the video, I was just kind of frustrated. And I mentioned this in the video as well. I sent them an email and said, do you have any more specs? What's the X-Max? And they responded with, the maximum power is 3,500 watts. They don't even know what X-Max is.
Well, and so my question could be a marketing guy too, like marketing versus tech. They or Are they still in China? Do you know if they're still in China? The guy who
It was
owns
mailed
them.
out of an office in California.
Yeah, but that could be just a shipping area. Like once it came from China.
Oh yeah, it's just like an office in an office park. I mean, it's like,
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's your standard run of the mill. Someone's got 4 or 5, buildings in a little cluster, and they're all little offices. It might have been Mullen's looking at their 1200 watt amp right now. It looks gutless. Yeah, they have a multi-channel amplifier they sell for a Tesla replacement amp. And it's 1200. It's $1,200 in addition to being 1200 watts, and it's like it's no more a 1200 watt amp than my glass of water is.
So I mean, and this kind of becomes a problem, because then how do you decide what you should spend your money on? So you said what? It's about $120 or something like that.
160.
160, which really isn't very much, because that's the same price as, say, like the Dayton MX 12-22, right?
Right.
Somewhere in that range. Although I would rather have the MX 22. It doesn't look as nice. Although I personally like the MX series look. I know not everyone does, because it looks basically like a big satellite dish. I kind of like it. So it's not like great, but even if you spent a little bit more money, you could have something like the Adair Audio at like $200, and I would much rather have something like that versus something that doesn't have specs on it.
I mean, an Ultimax would be more expensive than this, and the Ultimax can't handle as much power, but the Ultimax, you know what you're getting.
So that's the problem, because you say it doesn't handle enough power, but without the TS specs, we don't really know how much power it can handle, because we went over this just a few weeks ago, right? That's just the thermal rating. We don't know when we put it in a box if this can handle 100 watts or 1,000 or whatever. So truthfully, we really don't know. And the problem that you had with the DATs makes it even more problematic, because you couldn't even pull the TS specs if you wanted to in the manner that you were trying to get them.
And, I could have built a box of known volume and tried it, but is there any guarantee it would have worked?
Well, I mean, you would have got TS specs. The real question is, is there any guarantee that they're accurate?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of questions on this particular subwoofer in general. So the question really comes down to, do specs matter? And in this particular case, I think specs absolutely mattered, because one, even if you're just trying to power this subwoofer, you don't know exactly how much power to give it besides what they're saying is their RMS power.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't account for what box you put it in. So truly, you're just guessing. Now, if you're using it for like a replacement subwoofer in a vehicle, fine. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You're not going to be damaging it anyway, because it's like a 100 watt amp probably.
I want to say hi to David K. I always call him David K because I've got 2 Davids that are patrons of mine. He's one of your patrons as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I love David K.
Yeah, good to see him. And we got Scott Bowie is up in the house too. Good to see you, Scott.
There, and Paul Good.
Yeah. Oh, Paul's here too. I saw Paul. Where's he at? Good evening, Paul. Oh, who else we have? David Tucker. David, another one of my patrons. That's David. David T. David K. and David T. are both here. That's good to see everybody. Here's what's frustrating thing about it though, Nick, is the subwoofer didn't sound bad. I mean, I think it might actually be a good subwoofer, and I think it's priced fairly, but I can't give recommendations to my audience when it's an unknown company that has a sketchy past. What's known of it is sketchy. And so here I am saying in the video, the light harmonic gets a thumbs down, but the subwoofer sounds good. I don't know what to do with that.
This is the problem, I think, because even the brands that you do get specs on, the question always are the specs accurate? Are they good? Are they, like, if we're going to model them, are they going to be accurate and good? And that's another question that we have. So we have light harmonics. So even if they offered specs, the question would be, are the specs good enough? And with this particular passive, we don't know this company. I'm not familiar with them, but based on what you shared, my question would be, I'm not sure if they're accurate specs. You'd almost have to be able to test those TS parameters somehow.
And I think Mullen really just kind of hit it out of the park with that comment. The free shipping on their $32,000 DAC makes it all worth it.
Yeah, you know what, man? I just reviewed a $400 DAC for home audio, or $450, somewhere in that range, and I was like, it's kind of expensive compared to where DACs are nowadays. And then we see a $32,000 DAC, and it's like, they're kind of, never mind. That's kind of cheap. And honestly, I think it's worth it for the $400. $32,000. I cannot imagine any DAC ever being worth that.
And I think Franco 316 is right here, and we don't have universal spec testing. We could do a whole lot better with some more standardization for how we present specifications.
Oh yeah, sure.
But
either way, I think it is absolutely the manufacturer's responsibility to give you specs. And I do believe a lot of times we don't see this a lot in car audio. And the reason why I say that is even car audio speakers, like component kits, they're not there. They don't offer those. And for good reason, I guess. They just assume you're just going to put it in the door panel and you don't need to worry about it. It's like, it works fine in the door panel. This is what it works like. But some people don't. Some people want to create pods or, custom, situations where they might put something different, where they might want those specs just to see how it's going to affect that lower end frequency.
And I think the door speaker is a good example. Before I move on, though, I want to say thank you to David K for popping the $20 super chat out to us. We really appreciate that a whole lot. These super chats are kind of how we know that we're not ruining everyone's day with our useless banter.
I don't think it's useless. I mean, I think this is good information.
What is the number that you're looking for when you're trying to decide if it's okay to put a speaker in a door panel? It's one of the Q parameters or something you're supposed to look at. What is that?
42.
Okay, perfect. 42.
Hey, you're like one of the few people that understood that. Yeah, no. So the number you typically look for anything that works well in free air. So a Q over 1.
Gotcha.
It's not necessary, but that's typically what people like to look for.
So let me move on to another company, and let me kind of like I'm thinking like progression, right? Let's see. Yeah, David K. Specs should be a science. They're for universal, absolutely. And Scott Louis QTS, that's the number we're looking for. So I'm going to throw on the screen. This is from the Sonic Electronics website. Many of you know that NVX have been sending me some equipment and sponsoring some videos. This is their kind of mid-level 15-inch subwoofer. X-Max of 12 millimeters. Specifications are in the owner's manual, and interesting enough, the manual's not on the NVX website, where you can get a discount with my discount code DIY Audio 10, but it is on the Sonic Electronics website. So you got to go there to get the specs. And so it's kind of like, oh, come on, guys, y'all can tighten up a little bit here. And what I noticed is it didn't give me the full TS parameters. Like the 3 Q parameters are functions of each other. And if you know 2, you can compute the third. The formula is not complicated, and WinISD will just spit it out. But so
what does it give you? Just the Qs and the what does it give you? Q and maybe the X-Max
and QMS, I think it is. And so QES has to be calculated, or vice versa. I don't remember exactly.
It gives you the FS though too, right?
Yes, it gives you the FS. So you've got like
it'll calculate.
You've got kind of the skeleton of what you need, but there's it's not a full set of parameters, but most of what you need's there. And it's like, well, okay, that's good enough.
But is it? I mean, it depends on what all they give you, because sometimes it's good enough to at least model a box, but oftentimes, depending on what they're leaving out, it won't necessarily give you the power handling of the box. Like it'll tell you, hey, this is how it's going to tune, which is important, but it won't tell you necessarily the maximum power handling. And I think that they should offer the basic TS. I mean, every manufacturer should have those. Like if you're manufacturing a speaker, you should know what your speaker is designed to do. And if you're manufacturing a speaker and you don't know what it's designed to do, then you shouldn't be making it. You shouldn't be selling it, at least.
I think you're right. And I think the guys at NVX, and Sonic Electronics have been in the game for a long time. They kind of know what they're doing. So they do give you a lot of what you need. So that's nice, right? That's really nice to know that we can build the box. I put up Speedway Audio's comment here, had MB enclosures build a box for 410s. You need the exact specs. That's right. You need the exact specs to build that best possible enclosure. Brian Steele always has good comments, but these days with DSP, Xmax and XMEC are very important. Other parameters, not so much. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I think they're all important in their own way.
I do too. I mean, I get what he's saying, but I would much rather design it properly than worry about those other things. I mean, you could even argue that Xmax isn't that important anymore either with DSP, because you can just limit it if you want to, depending on what you're trying to do.
And just kind of a preview for when this build goes out. I'm building a big box for this big 15 right now, and so this thing $110 before my little discount. So this is $100 15-inch subwoofer, and it's lightweight, and so that's interesting. So it's not a really big beefy kind of monster one, but it's nice to have the extra cone area. And when I was modeling it in WinISD, it seemed like it was almost always above Xmax. So I'm wondering why that is, and I'm not certain. Maybe there's some parameter missing that we need to get a better model. So maybe they're not even giving me all the specs that I need.
Yeah. That can be very frustrating. And this is honestly one of the reasons why I stay away from certain subwoofers, because the truth of the matter is it's not that hard to do. I had a friend give me a subwoofer. I actually have it here. I'm still planning on building a box for it. I haven't built a box for it yet. I'm terrible. I don't know why. It's a 10-inch. I'll have to get it out here in a minute. I cannot remember the name of the brand. It's a WMD though. Weapon of Mass Destruction is what they call it. It's a car audio subwoofer.
I feel like I've heard of that before.
Yeah, no specs on it. It's an expensive subwoofer too. It's not cheap. It's an expensive, no specs for it. I use DATs to get the specs for it and figure out like what I want to do with it. It wants a sealed box in this particular case, or it does best in that. But man, like someone without DATs, and this is why I think DATs is so important. DATs is what, like $130 or something like that. Dude, DATs will save your life on some of these subwoofers, because you can actually design a decent box out of them where you wouldn't be able to otherwise. I'm going to get that out while you're talking.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to pop up a comment on the screen. Someone, I forget who it was, had mentioned they'd had some trouble with Sonic Electronics. I've heard of people having problems with them. I've not had any trouble with them myself. I bought a few things from them over the years, some amps and stuff. I'll tell you this, the shipping, because I think the MVX headquarters is up in Kentucky. And so they'll send something on a Friday afternoon, UPS drops it on my porch on a Saturday. And so they are really fast on the shipping, at least from my location. So, oh my goodness, the Weapon of Mass Destruction. Yeah. How much does it weigh?
I don't know, enough that they had to ship it with wood in there to make sure that it doesn't.
That looks a lot like the light harmonic frame, right? It's the same frame, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
It's got the similar arch vents in. Yeah, it's the same frame.
It is the same. It is very similar. They definitely have. My assumption is that they coded this differently, because this is almost like, no, maybe not. Never mind. I thought it was like a rubberized. I mean, it's nice. They put binding, like banana plugs right there. You can put in there. I mean, it's nice. It's heavier than heck.
I love it when I love it when they ship a woofer and a little mount like that, a wooden mount like that, because then I've got a template. Because one spec that I just don't trust, I absolutely don't trust the cutout diameter that they give me on any brand anywhere.
It's Pierce Audio, by the way, is the name.
Pierce Audio. Yeah. Yes, I've heard of it. But no, I don't trust the speaker cutout diameter on any subwoofer anywhere. And I'll tell you, the world's worst is that Ultimax 10 that I've got. It's not the same. It's bigger. It's an oversized. So having that right there to use as a template to make sure you've got the cutout right is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, it really is. And so they don't even show this particular subwoofer anymore because they don't make it. But I mean, last I checked, and I don't know what their particular thing. I mean, they were. I mean, it was a pretty expensive subwoofer whenever it came out, and I don't know how much it was because, like I said, I didn't buy it. Someone sent it. Someone gave it to me. And I am planning to do something with it. I just don't know what yet. It's pretty cool though. It's very heavy. I'm taking this off.
don't hurt yourself there. When a man gets to be a certain age, every time they bend over, they have to groan. It's just part of it, right? Even when it doesn't hurt to get up or sit down, you have to groan.
So you know what's crazy? That particular subwoofer, they also put wood on the bottom of the box too. So this is the thing I'm talking about, right? So they put so much money even just shipping this, right? So they took, I mean, it's particle board. It's not like anything crazy. Well, it's not particle board. I lied. It's like a subfloor type thing. But they put that on the bottom, and then they mounted this to it to make sure this doesn't get damaged. They spent like more money on that, and yet there's no specs at all on the website. So they're expecting you to buy this. They're expecting to ship it to protect it, but they don't give you any specs to have any idea of how to use it when you get there. Like, if you're going to spend that much time and effort to make sure it gets there safe, then don't you also want to put that same amount of time and effort into making sure that someone who uses it doesn't damage it the first time they hook it up to something?
I agree with you. I mean, Stu's comment, love the converted measurements, cut out diameter of 11.566 inches. I sometimes wonder if I need to get me a metric version or so of a circle jig to make life a little bit easier and just go all metric. But you're exactly right, Nick. Why go through all that trouble to just a good job of packing that subwoofer from a brand that people know about, right? And then not give you the TS parameters so you can't build a basic box. Yeah,
or even very least, any speaker company at the very least should at least give you recommended box size.
At minimum, recommended box size.
And with recommended box size, they should give recommended power to that box.
Like the way I think Kicker does this. I think JL Audio does this as well. Kicker gives you this kind of power range that's color coded, right? There's a green, yellow, and a red, right? And so green is fine. And the color coding are different for sealed versus ported box. So there you go.
So I think the fundamental problem though is the consumer. And here's why I mean by that is I think companies have come to the conclusion that the consumer just cares about what it looks like. Like that WMD looks impressive, right? Like, yes, I mean, I think so. What it looks like, and then what we say the wattage is. Like right. That's it. Like if we say max wattage 3,000 watts, you're like, oh man, I'm buying that. It does 3,000 watts. It looks beefy as heck. I'm gonna buy that thing, and I'm gonna throw 3,000 watts on it and blow it up in a half a day.
So Dub Team LFS asks a really good question. How do manufacturers actually get the recommended box specs on their products, though, right?
I guess.
What's funny is, like, I know that Parts Express, not for every brand they carry, but definitely for their Dayton Audio lines, is they will load it into Basebox Pro 6 and give you a usually high fidelity recommendation, which is more like a home theater, tune it real low for a wide bandwidth recommendation. And I find that I like mine to have a little bit more punchy bass in a car. But that's how they go about doing it. You have a curious look on your face, Nick.
Oh no, I was reading something, but so Parts Express is one that, they own Dayton Audio and GRS. And so one of the things that they do is that they do in-house designing of their subwoofers. They're not just buying mass-produced subwoofers and putting their name on it. And so because of that, they're actually in the process of designing this subwoofer. So specifically, they know what they want this subwoofer to do. And because of that, they've done a lot of testing before you ever get the product as well. So I know that they test them in-house before you even get it in there. So they also use Basebox Pro, and that's what they use for the final thing to tell you. But they've also practiced it, used it. I'm pretty sure Kicker does the same thing. A lot of good name brands do it. I feel like a lot of times when we see lack of specs, it's because they have purchased so many subwoofers from, some manufacturer, pasted their logo on it, and have sold it as is. And that's concerns me. And yeah, Parts Express is in Dayton, Ohio. It's actually Springsboro. But it's right outside Dayton.
Right outside Dayton. El Fuego says that Kicker has that tech support. When people send me an email and say, "Hey, I'm interested in a speaker design," I usually say, "Have you called Kicker first if they're running Kicker?" Because the Kicker tech support, you'll call them and they'll pull up Basebox Pro and they'll talk to you about what you want to do, and they will give you specifications right there. They won't give you the whole box layout like I do when I do a speaker design for a client, but they'll tell you, port this long, this many cubic feet, so forth and so on.
So I want to reach on True Voice Reasons thing. He said, "Hey, I wish Parts Express would just use DATs and OmniMic to measure all their incoming drivers, not just theirs." And I love that idea as well. I'm thinking some manufacturers wouldn't like that idea, but I love that idea. I will tell you this. This is before I had a YouTube channel. This is before Parts Express knew who I was or anything like that. They had a driver on there, and it was a Morel. It was a Morel driver. And to make a long story short, they were missing some of the data, and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember if it was the frequency response or if it was the DATS data, the impedance data, or whatever. And so I asked them if they, about it. And then I think it was 2 or 3 days later, they sent it over and they took their own measurements of it, sent it right on over to me. So, we were talking about tech support with El Fuego. So I think same thing with Parts Express. At least it has been in the past. I've had very good experiences with that.
You see, and I feel comfortable recommending a company that can give you that kind of tech support, that can measure these things, can answer questions. Someone had mentioned using a local builder, right? If you can find someone who can build them for you, which, if you can find a local builder that you trust, because I don't know many people who build subwoofers or what's involved in it. I know it looks like it would be a challenge to make sure everything's lined up right. But if you find someone that you can go to and say, "Hey, I can get reasonable stuff," and they'll give me specifications and build it to order. And why not,
So I'm going to call out a company that I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but someone that I think does a good job giving you specifications. Now, I don't know if they're accurate because I've never used one and I've never tested one, but Scar Audio, I think, is a good one that does a good job of giving you specifications. When you click on their speakers or whatever, I'm not necessarily a fan of Scar Audio, but they have all their TS parameters labeled. They even have box information labeled, recommended port area, recommended ported volume, recommended sealed volume, recommended tuning frequency, all that type of stuff, which is refreshing to see, because I honestly wouldn't expect them to do that.
So Zach, I do charge for like a design fee for modeling subwoofer enclosures, and when I do that, I go all out. I model it in WinISD, and I pulled up. I bought a professional version of SketchUp, and I do these plans with dimensions and everything on it. I don't show you how to cut down the plywood because that's something people are very picky about how they want to do it. I've got a specific way I do it. But I'm not taking on design clients right now. It's a super busy season at my day job. And so I can't get them turned around fast enough for my own personal standards. I know Nick does design, will take on design clients as well. So I don't know if Nick, if you've got time to take on any clients right now, but for me, you just email me at DIYaudioguy@gmail.com and I'll throw you a quote and go to it. I'm not cheap because I do it all kind of by hand and put a lot of pride into making sure that, and I give you the full layout, like, how low can it play before you start exceeding X max, that kind of thing. Port velocity, make sure you're not chuffing.
So yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, whenever you're talking about custom box design, it's custom. It's custom for your build. It's custom for what you want. You have to talk to, either one of us. We have to decide what your design goals are, and then we can design a box around it. So custom is always going to be more expensive than, just a normal box design that you're going to get from someone else. Let's just say, hey, build a 2 cubic foot box. You give out, I believe, and I do the same thing. You give out the like SketchUp plans for it as well, right?
Yeah. Right.
So you basically can print it off and then exactly where to cut everything.
And it's funny because every now and then someone will send me a message complaining about how much I charge for it. I'm all like, okay, well, good luck. And I remember there's one gentleman was all like, well, I'll just learn how to do it on my own. And 2 weeks later, he sends me an email because he's stuck with WinISD. And I'm all like, yeah, it's kind of hard, isn't it? Maybe it's worth paying someone to do there, buddy. And every now and then you run across these people who will sell plans for $15 each, and it's all like, I don't know where you downloaded those from, but those are just borderline just generic plans. So it's not someone sitting down talking to you about your goals and everything like that.
So before we go too far, and you're right, you're welcome to contact me at sales@toidsdiyaudio.com if you need something like that as well. Either one of us would be happy to do that for you. But Jermaine Crutchfield had said, hey, besides Basebox Pro, what other programs do you recommend? I know we both recommend WinISD. It's a free program, doesn't cost you anything. Basically does everything that Basebox Pro does, just differently. It does take a little bit of time to learn. Both of us have done videos on how to learn WinISD. You can check those out. And you can even check out like specific, I know I've done specific programs such as things on passive radio. How do you model a passive radio? How do you model a port? Those types of things. Even how to put a driver in, because it's sometimes it seems like it should be really easy, but somehow WinISD complicates it sometimes.
I've found that when entering driver parameters, it works better to go really slow, and between each step, make sure you click out of a field, click into some random field, and make sure WinISD has time to auto calculate. And when I do it that way, it almost always works. I almost always don't get any errors back. But when I'm I don't know why, it just seems to be the way it works. Can I show you an example of what I mean when I say what the good specifications look like, Nick? Let me show you an example.
I would love to see it in an example.
I've not tried this subwoofer out yet, but I am drooling over it. It's the Dayton Audio Reference High Excursion subwoofer. So this is their reference series with the, I can't say the word, but I'll try anyways, aluminum cone.
I always thought you were just trying to be British when you say that.
I say it the British way because it's the only way I can pronounce it. I don't know why.
I was just chuckle inside when you do it. I'm like, there's Justin being British.
They've thrown a high roll surround on it, and the basket looks different to me, and it's got a triple stack magnet. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page under the specifications, or other manuals and resources, and you have first of all, you have these FRD and ZMA files, which are really handy if you're for the mids and tweeters when designing crossovers.
Absolutely.
And I want to show this off and then kick to you, because I want you to talk about specifications you need to design crossovers. So it's not just me talking about my rant here. And so pull down the PDF file, PDF pulls up here, and lo and behold, you have an impedance chart, just like you get from DATS. It's from DATS. DATS is Dayton Audio, is a Parts Express product, right? It's yes, that's right. The aluminum is what Wolverine's claws are made out of.
No,
I've heard good things about the Ultimate Car Audio app, but I've never tried it, just because I kind of like doing the math on my own and crunching the numbers, because I'm weird like that.
I've never seen that one. Yeah.
And you've got a frequency response plot. And, when someone tells you what the SPL measure is, the sensitivity measure is on a subwoofer, okay, at what frequency? At what frequency range? So at 100 hertz, this thing is about halfway between 85 and 90, and you can see the drop off, right? And what's kind of cool about these reference series is they have a shorting ring, so they do really good at playing high. You can almost use these in like a two-way home speaker with a big tweeter. You'd probably know more about how to do that, Nick. And I agree with RVH here that a carbon dust cap on the aluminum would look great. You get this page with all this data when you buy from Parts Express, and it's just like, why can't Light Harmonic give me half that? Why can't they spend $130 on a DATS run the TS parameters?
I agree, and I honestly think that they should be offering you frequency response graphs on a subwoofer. I kind of understand, I get it, but even on, I get that but someone's gonna say, well, like, hey, once you put it in your car door, it's gonna be different than your other specs, and that's true. It is. It's not gonna look the same. Your frequency response is not gonna look the same once you put it in your car door. I get that, but I'd still like to know, is it somewhat designed well, or is it like look like the ocean with waves everywhere? Still want to know.
Talk to me about these, or tell everyone about these FRD ZMA files and what they're used for, Nick.
I've never seen them before. Justin's like, what?
You're pulling my leg, right?
Yes, of course. I've taught people how to actually design crossovers using FRD and ZMA files. And what I mean by that is like you can get a good idea of whether speakers are going to work well together. So this particular one is a subwoofer, so they're not going to show you the off-axis responses. So if you scroll down to the FRD, it shows you just one particular line. It just shows you a black line. Now, if you're looking at a mid-range or a tweeter, it's going to show you a black, a blue, a red, all kinds of different color lines. And that's because it's also showing you off-axis response. So when you're designing a speaker for home audio, you want to really pay attention to those off-axis responses because typically you want to cross over before that really starts, those off-axis really start diverging. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for a long time, all those colors are going to be on the same level, and all of a sudden they're going to start diverging at a frequency that's dependent on the size of the cone. And so crossover design, oftentimes part of that design is going to be dependent on those off-axis responses, which is why it's so important to have. There are going to be certain websites that don't give you the off-axis, and it's not as big of a sin because you can pretty much figure that out just by figuring out what size speaker it is, and then you'll know where it should be diverging from. But it is nice to know if you're going to have any types of peaks or valleys that you might have problems when you're designing a crossover.
Thank you to Seidel for the $5 super chat and the question. Looking for an 8-inch subwoofer for under $200 in the 250 to 300 watt RMS range. There is a mountain of good subwoofers in that range. I'm going to throw in the 8-inch Ultimax. I've got a 10-inch Ultimax. It's an 8-inch subwoofer, 16 millimeters. Wow, that basket looks familiar. It looks just like the Light Harmonic basket, 300 watts RMS. And they're thought of as a home theater subwoofer, but they work in cars. There's no I don't buy into the whole it's got to be a home theater, a home courses car subwoofer. These are great. They do really well in low tuned enclosures. I've not tried the 8-inch Ultimax. Any of the Dayton Audio 8-inch subwoofers are great. And then Kicker makes a great one. I'm not sure how much their Q class 8-inch is, but I would go with their Q class if you can afford it. There's just so many good brands out there. It's hard to list them all.
No, I'm with you though too. The first one I would go with is the Ultimax if I could get the 8-inch Ultimax, because that really is a great subwoofer. And I don't know very many people that would not just choose the 8-inch Ultimax. I don't think they made an MX series. Otherwise I would also throw that one out there.
And Sundown, Alpine. JL Audio makes a fine subwoofer, but I don't know if they sell anything for under $200. I think you can't.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think you can buy a JL Audio sticker for under $200. So I mean, there's just loads of good brands, and it's just what is it you're looking for it to do. I've always wanted to try an Image Dynamics. I think theirs are fantastic too. I think you can get their rates for their $200. I'm just kind of throwing out names here. But if you hit the Down for Sound Shop, follow the link in the description to some of the Down for Sound Shop links and grab an 8-inch Sundown. Sundown makes fantastic stuff. Just tons of them, tons of great ones out there. It's so hard to narrow it down.
I think out of all the ones that you mentioned, I would do the Ultimax first. I mean, that's so much. First of all, you save yourself $50. It does the exact power handling he wants, 300 watts RMS. And
it is on sale.
Yeah, it's on sale, and it's dual 2 ohm, so you can wire it down to 1 ohm if you want to. You can wire it to 4 ohm. You have so many amplifier options, basically, which is nice as well, I think. Yeah, assuming you're just running one.
A lot of good budget amps, like that recoil amp that I tested, 300 watt RMS at 4 ohms. It'd be perfect for something like that. And I think Seidel had also asked about how important the FS is. So the FS is the free air resonance, or the resonant frequency. The way I like to think about it is a subwoofer with a high FS is going to have a more difficult time playing low, especially in a sealed enclosure. I think that's the best way to summarize it. Would you agree with that summary, Nick?
I have a hard time just saying one particular stat means
Yes.
this without knowing the rest of the stats. In general, because sometimes you're going to tune lower than FS, sometimes you're going to tune higher than FS, but typically, if you're going to be going ported, that FS typically means it's going to be somewhere around where you're going to be porting at.
Only thing left for JL is charging cover for entering places selling their stuff.
I like what Chodester just said. Look what he said.
Well, thank you for the $9.99 super chat, Joester. Not true. FS equals free subwoofers. I'll tell you what, free subwoofers, that's the right price. That's my favorite price.
Oh, Brian Steele, that's a very interesting idea. High FS is what I'm looking for now for an 8th order bandpass design.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, really the TS specs, and that's why the TS specs are so important, is depending on what you're looking for is really going to depend on what you want. You know, you don't necessarily need a high or low FS. It really depends on what type of box you're designing and why. That's why complete TS parameters are nice to have too, because you need them.
I'm not sure how much the NVX 8-inch subwoofers are. Their upper line, NVX's upper line, I think are fantastic subwoofers. They're very comparable to the Ultimax. The one up notch from the 15 I just showed you. Not sure if they have an 8 in that line or not, but that's a good one. There's tons of good ones. I mean, just hit the links down in the description to Crutchfield and Down for Sound. Just browse around till you see something you think works. Gosh, it's so hard to narrow it down. There's so many good choices.
Yeah. I'm still down with the Dayton Audio. Go with the Dayton Audio Ultimax. And I'm going to call Parts Express sometime and say, I need the FS sometime. They'll be like, what? I need the free subwoofers, dude. So speaking of subwoofers, this is a little off topic, but this kind of tells you how important subwoofer specs are. I am going to have the 21-inch subwoofer video out this week. I actually built 2 21-inch subwoofers. And I'm telling you, out of all the subwoofers I looked at, these fit my parameters the best of what I wanted to try to do. And that's really important because I looked at a lot of different 21-inch subwoofers, and these ones really were the best for what I wanted to do. And without having those TS specs, I could have bought some and tried to do what I'm trying to accomplish, which I'm trying to basically accomplish 2 sealed 21-inch subwoofers that can hit like 10 hertz and below and still be like completely linear if you want inside your room. So we're going to be using room gain to be able to make up for some of that low end loss. And there are some of those that I started modeling that if I did not have the right specs on there, there's no way they would have worked out as like these ones did. And I'm not going to tell you how well or how bad they worked out because you're going to have to watch the video for that. But I know that I would have gotten worse results than what I got now. I can tell you that for sure.
I'm really stoked to see that build because that's just, I mean, that's just huge.
So are my neighbors. I'm just kidding. My neighbors live like 2 acres away.
That's lovely. It's nice to live. It's nice to have people live a long way from you. The further away your neighbors are, the easier it is to do all the audio stuff.
So really funny story too. Now that we say that, my children are young, and because we have no neighbors, they sometimes treat the yard as their toilet.
I grew up in the country. That's what you do. That's what you do.
And then we visited people not in the country. No. You can't do that.
I have a decent sized lot here in the middle of town, and until recently, not many neighbors behind me. So, yeah.
Yeah. I also have to remind them when the mail lady's coming.
Oh, is there anything else that you want to? Okay, I have something I want to rant about. Because I like ranting.
Rant away. I like ranting.
It goes back to what I was saying before about specifications, and I've had some chats with several people that have we've talked about batteries on our show before, and time again, every company that's making a battery They'll give all this information about the battery. They'll tell you how many watts the battery can support, all this kind of stuff, but they never, ever list in the specifications the most important thing, and that is the C rating. Like this right here, which I think is a fantastic battery. And I'm regretting not buying one of these. I went with two of their smaller ones because they're designed to work with stock electrical. If you are running a high output alternator, this battery is all you need for 10,000 watts. Great. But what's the C rating? Because what I want to know is I want to know how fast it discharges, how fast it charges, so I can figure out all this stuff on my own, because I just want to figure it out on my own. And so like, what am I to do with no battery manufacturer anywhere will list the C rating? And I'm told you can back it out, but I'm trying to go through going, no, there's not enough information to back out the C rating. That's what you need to know to pick a lithium battery is the C rating. But no one tells you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the problem with the audio industry in general, is that there tends to be lack of information at times. And then the information that is there isn't necessarily a standard. So we get that. Oftentimes we talk about this a lot with SPL ratings when we're talking about sensitivity. You know, some people do it at 1 watt. Some people do it at 2.83 volts. You know, you need to make sure that when you're looking at them, you're looking at apples to apples. You know, you don't look at apples to oranges. If it says 2.83 volts and one says 1 watt, well, guess what? That may not be the same number. So it doesn't matter if we're looking at that. You can't compare those two numbers. I should put it that way. So same with, our RMS has now become the thermal rating, which is nice, I guess. But in the essence, it really doesn't tell us anything. It tells us very little. I should put it that way. It tells us the maximum that we can give it without damaging it, basically, is what it tells us.
I don't think Optima batteries are junk. I just think there's so much out there that's gotten better. For the longest time, they were, I feel like, the gold standard for performance and off-road and car audio. But there's better batteries out there, I think. And a lot of batteries are just the same battery with a different brand on it. But
I do feel like there's one thing we could say. Optima is typically sold at like AutoZone.
Right.
And those. Here's the deal. I think both of us would be fairly confident in saying, don't buy audio equipment from AutoZone or O'Reilly's or any of those places.
Yes. But you can run down to those places and you could pick up a red top or a yellow top, maybe a blue top, Optima right now. They've got them in stock. All right. There's one down the street from me. RMS is the root mean square. That is correct. I have a video talking about root mean square. You run across root mean. Root mean square is used as a way to calculate averages anytime you have a number that spends as much time above zero as it spends below zero. So there you go. You can't, if you average that, you get zero. And so you need a root mean square so you can actually get an average. That's the way I like to, the non-technical way of explaining it. RMS means root mean square. And the way to interpret root mean square is that if it were continuous DC power, that's how much power it would put out.
Exactly.
So, Brian, in IT, we talk about what the business requirements are and then have to depend on the information the vendor gives us to determine if they can then meet build based on data. It's critical. It's the same with trying to design a subwoofer box. It's just not as important because it's just a subwoofer box. It's not a business that's going to go under.
So here's I think the biggest takeaway that I have from this is, if you're looking at a subwoofer and it's lacking specs, most likely it's because they're buying it from a mass-produced area and they're putting their name on it. And most likely that's not a good product to purchase. In general, don't buy one without specs unless you're willing to figure it out with DATs. I don't like to buy anything without specs because when I do receive it, it may not fit what I wanted it to do in the first place. So why am I buying it if I'm basically gambling that it's going to work out for what I want it to do?
I'll give you an example of that with that. Again, I'm ranting on the light harmonic. When it showed up, there was no badging on the box or the subwoofer, no branding on it. Their Amazon pictures show a sticker on the back plate with their logo on it, but it had nothing on. In fact, one person in a YouTube comment accused me of photoshopping the name out. It's like,
Huh?
No,
How
I
would I
wouldn't
do
waste
that?
my time photoshopping the name out. I would just take pictures so you couldn't see the name.
That's a
But
good
no,
point.
but
Yeah.
I didn't debadge it to put it up on pictures on my YouTube community page. It didn't have any badging on it whatsoever. If you were to look at it right now, it would have absolutely none whatsoever.
You know what I wish? I wish Adair Audio had done an 8-inch. Like that would be really cool. It might be a Dyer. I mean, I guess it depends on
I
how
have
you
no
want
idea
to
how it's
pronounce it.
pronounced. I don't like to
Yeah,
buy brands if I can't pronounce the name.
it's like 98% of them now. But yeah, they have a great motor system on theirs. You know, they use the XBL2 motors. It's a great system, but they don't make an 8-inch. They only make a 10-inch. I'm still going with Ultimax 8-inch would be my number one, and then I don't really have a number two, so I'm going with. The problem is, and here's the issue with buying an 8-inch now. A lot of people don't make them anymore because 8-inch used to be like the standard in audio, right? Like everyone would be like, I want an 8-inch in car audio, even home audio. People want it. Now it's like, I want a 21-inch. I want an 18. I mean, most of the time you hear an 18-inch. I want an 18-inch. It's crazy.
That's hilarious. It's just funny to me how people are, but that's okay. People are people, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right.
Justice.
We've been at an hour, Nick. You've already shared what's coming up on your channel next. So this is the time when you don't want to drop off the live stream, because this is where you get the inside information about what's about to happen on both of our channels. So Nick, what's happening on your channel? You've already told us about it. So tell us again. It's the big build, right?
Yeah, I got a big build. I got two 21 inches subwoofers that I have already built. If you're on my Patreon, you already know how they sound. You already know what I think about them. But that build is coming out. Really excited about that build. Basically, what I'm trying to do is to take the theory of room gain and put it to the test. Can I build two 21-inch sealed subwoofers in a much smaller box than what it would be, even like one 21-inch ported would be in, and get similar, if not better, results in the room? And so that's kind of what I'm trying to hypothesize and test and see how it works out. I also am going to get at least one review video out, and I was working earlier on some thoughts on another video that I'd like to try to get out as well. So we'll see.
All right.
Two videos is probably the max I'll be able to get out, but I would like to get 3 if I could.
So I'm going to add a picture to the stream here. This is a shot from a Toto sent me a head unit. You've reviewed their head units before. They sent me one of their floating 10-inch touchscreens. This video is finished and uploaded, and my patrons already have early access to this. And so I'm going to do my take on the 10-inch floating screen, kind of generic head unit from China. I did hook up the amp dyno to it so I can give you the power output. So it's a very thorough review of this item, and there's a couple of interesting things that popped up in the review that are going to make it worth seeing. Hopefully I'll drop this video Saturday, maybe Sunday, just depends on what else goes on, because I've got another project I'm hustling right now because I want to get some of these out pretty quick. And that is, let's see if I can pull it up here. I am working on building. I don't do a lot of big subwoofers. So this is a box for a 15-inch subwoofer that I'm working on right now for NVX. And so Zach Taylor, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. It means a whole lot to us. You are great as well. So so I'm really stoked about getting this box finished. I might have to rebuild it because just between us friends here, I screwed it up.
Yeah. Is it with the port?
No. I had a little problem with a router bit, and it's not. It's okay. It's just not up to my standards, and my standards aren't that high. So, it's that one in the middle. Is that going to be a brace? You're going to cut holes in it? Yeah, it's going to be a brace. Yeah. But
okay, that makes more sense.
I was trying to
have an enclosure in there.
I was trying to use a roundover bit to round out the port, and I didn't have the bit at the right height, and it ended up looking. It looked, so the port looks like butt. But anyways, yeah, I plan on carpeting it. I've got 4 or 5 yards of carpet ordered from Parts Express, and I need to use it before it gets too much dust on it.
I just want to point out Chad Putt's thing. He said, "Hey guys, this was really cool. This is my first live stream and enjoyed it. So I know we both appreciate that as well." And I also want to throw out there too. I was invited to the Discord channel, so
Oh,
I
yes.
tried it out. I haven't been on there. I've only been on there once. I was really busy this past week. Some other things that were going on, but I'll try to get back on some other time as well. But yeah, they invited me, so I appreciated that, and I was on for a little bit. Unfortunately, I think I
I would,
missed like everyone. So,
I would,
or maybe that was it. Maybe when I got on there, all like, we're out.
I would love to get on the Discords. I don't have time right now to do it because it's crunch time for content creators is what it is, because people
Yeah.
are reaching out saying, we want a video. Can you get a video before Black Friday? It's like, well, send me a subwoofer. We'll see what we can do. And so I'm looking forward to getting after Christmas where I can go back to making the videos I enjoy the most, as opposed to people saying, hey, we want you to make one with this product. So but that's just part of the game sometimes. I got a company who sent me a kit, and it is the most badass kit I've ever seen. And it might take a couple of weeks before I get it finished, but it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I'm excited for all of these. These all sound like really great projects.
If I can get them all done.
Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you guys.
All right, Nick, it's time to sign off. I'm Justin, also known as the DIY Audio Guy, and I am out.
I'm out as well.